For a while, Oak Ridge Meadows felt different. Lighter, freer. The endless anxiety that had once hung over every trimmed hedge and manicured lawn seemed to lift, replaced by something unfamiliar. Possibility. It started slowly, almost cautiously, like a ripple spreading through calm water. But once it began, there was no stopping it. At first, it was small things. A wind chime appeared on one porch, soft and melodic in the breeze. A child painted a mailbox in bright colors, her parents smiling instead of worrying about fines. A couple down the street replaced their regulation beige mulch with river stones, saying it felt more natural. No one stopped them. No one complained. Then came the bolder moves. Someone planted sunflowers in their front yard, despite the HOA's old uniform landscape rule. Another family installed a small koi pond. And soon, decorations started popping up everywhere. Whimsical birdhouses, ceramic mushrooms, hanging lanterns. Oak Ridge Meadows was changing. The sameness that had once defined it was being rewritten, one act of expression at a time. I watched it all unfold from my front porch, sipping coffee and smiling as I saw children running past my legal wonderland, their laughter echoing through streets that had once been silent and rigid. The new HOA president, a soft-spoken man named David, seemed to understand the shift. He talked about community harmony instead of visual compliance. He proposed open discussions instead of strict decrees. For the first time, residents felt like participants rather than subjects. But not everyone was happy. A small faction, mostly older residents who had supported Carol for years, saw the changes as chaos. They whispered about the decline of standards, about how everything was falling apart. They said my garden had started it all, that my gnomes were a gateway to disorder. It amused me, honestly. The same people who had once bragged about Oak Ridge Meadows' perfection were now angry because it was becoming human. Still, their resistance grew louder. Anonymous letters began showing up again, this time slipped under doors and taped to mailboxes. They spoke of restoring order, of taking back the neighborhood. Some were signed only with 3 letters. RCC. Nobody knew what it stood for. But everyone suspected it was the same handful of residents trying to resurrect Carol's legacy. Then, one morning, I woke to find something new. A single garden gnome from my yard was missing. In its place was a note crudely written on lined paper. "The madness ends now. Take it down, or we will." The message was as childish as it was threatening. I wasn't angry, just disappointed. After everything that had happened, some people still couldn't let go of their need for control. I filed a quiet report with the new HOA board, not to escalate, but to document it. David assured me that he'd handle it discreetly, but I had a feeling this wouldn't be the last of it. Over the next few weeks, the so-called Reclaim Committee, as the RCC began calling themselves, grew bolder. They didn't vandalize property outright, but small things started happening. A painted bench mysteriously vanished. Decorative lights were unplugged. A few residents received letters accusing them of bringing shame to the community. The atmosphere shifted. The freedom that had filled the air after Carol's fall was now shadowed by unease. Some residents removed their new decorations out of fear. Others doubled down, adding even more color and charm to their yards as an act of quiet defiance. I chose the latter. Every time they tampered with something, I replaced it with something better. When they stole one gnome, I added 3 more. When they unplugged my lights, I installed brighter solar lanterns. And soon I wasn't the only one. The neighborhood began to push back, not through confrontation, but creativity. The rebellion wasn't loud. It was beautiful. One house painted a mural of butterflies on their fence. Another placed a metal sculpture of a phoenix rising from flowers. Someone even built a little free library shaped like a miniature castle. Every act was a statement, a collective refusal to return to silence. The RCC couldn't keep up. Their threats lost power as more people joined in. What had started as my personal protest had become a full-blown cultural shift, but the tension reached its peak. One Friday night in early autumn, I had just finished dinner when I noticed flickering lights through my living room window. I stepped outside and saw a group of people standing in my front yard. Neighbors, families, kids. They weren't there to protest. They were there to celebrate. Someone had organized it. A spontaneous garden night. One by one, residents lit candles, fairy lights, and lanterns. The whole street came alive with color and glow, the darkness washed away by a warm, golden shimmer. Music drifted softly from a Bluetooth speaker. Laughter echoed down the sidewalks, and people wandered from yard to yard, admiring each other's creations. It was everything Oak Ridge Meadows had never been allowed to be. For the first time, the neighborhood felt alive, not perfect, but alive. As the evening went on, David stood on my porch and gave a short, heartfelt speech about unity, change, and learning from the past. He spoke about turning mistakes into lessons, and about how communities weren't meant to be ruled. They were meant to be shared. People clapped, some even cheered. But then, something unexpected happened. At the edge of the crowd, a shadow lingered near the sidewalk. I recognized her instantly, even in the dim light. Carol Evans. She stood still, expression unreadable, watching the glowing yards, the smiling faces, the laughter that once would have been silenced under her leadership. No one approached her. No one said a word. She simply watched for a few moments, then turned and walked away into the night. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. The woman who once dictated every aspect of our lives had become a silent observer of the freedom she tried to destroy. As the candles burned low and the crowd dispersed, I stood at the edge of my garden, gazing at the gnomes lined up like quiet sentinels. The wind rustled the flowers, the fountain gurgled softly, and I realized something profound. What had started as an act of defiance had evolved into something far bigger than me. A movement. A transformation of a place that had forgotten how to be itself. But revolutions, even peaceful ones, never end cleanly. Change always leaves cracks. And as I looked down the street at the flickering lights slowly fading, I couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, wasn't done fighting. Because in neighborhoods like this, control is never surrendered easily. It's only ever waiting for its next opportunity to return.